Okay, so according to the Center of Disease Control, Ebola is a rare and deadly disease caused by infection with a strain of Ebola virus. The 2014 Ebola epidemic is the largest in history, affecting multiple countries in West Africa and the United States. So one clear definition we want to be sure everyone is aware of, as it will more than likely come up in the debate, is the manner in which Ebola is transmitted. Ebola is spread through direct contact with blood and body fluids of a person infected by and already showing symptoms of Ebola. Ebola is not spread through the air, water, food, or mosquitoes. Okay, so this House would send additional American troops to Africa to assist in the fight against Ebola for two main advantages, one being foreign policy purposes and two, to contain the disease. So the first point, sending troops to aid the Ebola outbreak increases the United States' foreign image and relations. The United States' foreign policies and foreign relations is already suffering because the United States is often seen as having an isolationist perspective on foreign affairs and seeking only to have complete power over the world while watching everybody else suffer. The United States needs to send additional troops to West Africa in order to send across the message that the United States is cooperative in global issues. So according to the United States Department of State, there are four main goals of foreign policy. 1, protect America and Americans. 2, advance economic prosperity, human rights, and other interests of the United States in the world. And 3, gain international understanding of American values and policies. And then finally, support U.S. diplomats and their government officials who work at home and abroad to make all foreign policies initiatives possible. These foreign policy goals clearly support how important and necessary it is for the United States to send its troops to assist in the fight against Ebola. For the first point, protect America and Americans, 10 Ebola cases have made their way to the United States, threatening to spread throughout the country. Therefore, sending troops to West Africa to stop the spread of the disease will benefit America as a whole. The second goal, advance human rights. Americans are known and pride themselves on the value of people as people and the equality all lives deserve. Therefore, for the United States to view immense suffering in addition to the suffering of its own people would go against the fundamental value of this country, which ties in also with the third goal of foreign policy, gain international understanding of American values. And then also, U.S. officials and military agree to support these goals of foreign policy. The United States sending troops to West Africa will greatly increase foreign policy relationships and be beneficial in the long term, in addition to helping the fight against this disease. Additionally, sending troops to aid in the Ebola outbreak halts the potential of the disease further spreading. In this current 2014 outbreak alone, Ebola has already spread to multiple countries. The United States, as we know, Spain, Britain, France, Germany, Norway, Switzerland, and Italy. In addition to that, there have been 15,113 cases in West Africa alone. The United States must do their part to stop the spread by sending additional troops to West Africa to contain the disease by building infrastructures to treat Ebola patients. A direct quote from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said, "The response to West Africa's Ebola epidemic, coupled with more effective action by local communities, has stopped the exponential spread of the disease in one of the hardest hit countries, Liberia. The United States sending troops to West Africa will slow and has slowed the spread of Ebola. Therefore, sending additional troops to West Africa does nothing but benefit West Africa, America, and the world as a whole."
All right, and now we have a 2-minute CX.
Oh, yeah.
What foreign policy purposes? What are the foreign policy purposes that we're seeking to promote there?
There's just general cooperation with the world wanting to work with us, them wanting our help, them working with us, like both.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You said the United States sending troops to West Africa will help contain the outbreak, the Ebola outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why don't they send doctors, since doctors are more
Well, some of the troops are medical personnel that are like helping with actually like fighting the disease, but the majority of the troops that they're sending are building infrastructures for the medical personnel to treat them.
Okay. Thank you.
No further questions.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Justin.
So, when looking at the present issue of Ebola, this House and many other people in America strongly oppose the notion that we should go to help in any sort of way. The reasons are very clear, and ultimately, our House and a majority of Americans, maybe not a majority, but a lot of Americans feel that it's a smarter choice not to get into it. I'd like to propose viewpoints of this House in keeping interactions to a minimum with the disease or with infected people, and that would most likely be beneficial to American safety and overall well-being. This non-action would strengthen the country and its purpose and its people in the future and all the generations to come. The disease itself is deadly, and our first point is that we should avoid putting our people in harm's way that typically have little threat to their lives, which is the everyday people that aren't typically exposed to the virus. There are different means of abstaining from the problem. Our first point, like I said, is humanitarian medical organizations are better trained than U.S. troops to deal with this type of crisis. The direct action that the U.S. has taken in Ebola assistance includes sending 4,000 troops overseas, which consists of soldiers and military contractors, which is made up of medical, logistics specialists, and engineers. There are different messages of security being claimed by officials, one of which is a statement issued by U.S. Army General David Rodriguez, a commander of the U.S. Africa Command, or AFRICOM for an acronym for short, who believes soldiers will be completely safe. I would just like to ask a question here. Would you rather be on a beautiful island or a disease-ravaged area with a biosuit that is safe? I'm betting on the island because the suit, no matter how safe they say it is, would be like 99.99% effective. But the thing is, if you stay here or on a beautiful island somewhere, you're not going to get the disease no matter what. Or, I mean, much smaller chance. So basically, you're putting yourself in harm's way. So the virus started in 1976, but first appeared in the U.S. As harmless antibodies in 1989. We have known about the virus for quite some time, but still have a critical late start as far as prevention measures and knowledgeable management. Even if we send fully trained personnel, we would not be as effective as other countries' doctors or even impactful as the trained humanitarian medical organizations that already have experience in the matter. Some evidence that I have about this is an example is the group Doctors Without Borders. They were founded in 1971 and they specialize in providing assistance to specific countries in need and have recently provided aid to countries in West Africa that have epidemics of Ebola outbreaks. According to their website, Doctors Without Borders, 90% of the doctors that are helping treat the disease are actually from the country in which they're treating the disease. According to our research, assistance from the inside is much more beneficial than outside assistance. Just because, like I said, they have the experience, they've been there before, they've done that, they've seen the cases. Sending troops to an unfamiliar area, already behind in knowledge learned from years of subjection to the disease, seems foolish and unnecessary to our House. Especially when there are already experienced and expertly trained medical staff there dealing with the issue. The second point I'd like to bring up is the second that comes up is the involvement. With our involvement there is the cost. Aside from danger to our personnel, the debt we are taking on is unnecessary and aids to add to our already massive debt. According to the website nationaldebtclock.org, we're already at $18 million and counting in national debt. The consensus here is that it's going to cost $750 million for the first 6 months, and Obama even opted to have an additional $6.2 billion towards the global Ebola fund. When one considers that the Ebola issue is almost non-existent in the states, the plan to basically throw money at a non-threatening issue seems ludicrous.
All right, and then 2 minutes of
Anybody can ask
cross-examination.
questions?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it just one person?
Well, they both asked, so.
Okay. I'll let you.
You can all ask.
So what is the importance of the doctors without the infrastructures that the U.S. troops are going to be building? How are they going to help if they don't have the infrastructures that we're going to be building?
I would say that the ones that are already there should be sufficient as far as like our research did, because they've combated the disease for years and years, and I feel like they don't need any more. Plus, the doctors that are already there, like I said, are fully equipped to do it. They've done it for, at least 13 years, more than we've even had an interest in the disease. So how are they doing before we started? The disease was actually less prevalent, so.
Which medical staffs did you say were more qualified to do this other than the troops?
As far as from our country or from their country?
From our country.
Well, there's, did I say that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so granted, it's broken down. We have soldiers that are going over, and like I'd say that's like half of them, and then the other half is expertly trained medical staff and engineers and things like that. And I would definitely say that they would be more equipped, but the need isn't there because they already have doctors from the country treating people.
Okay.
No more questions? All right.
And Dan.
Affirmative attack?
Yeah. Well.
No.
Yeah. Where are we at?
Negative
actually, I think they're
and
negative
first,
first.
so negative attack goes first.
Yes. Yeah, that seems to be right. Yep.
So it's
Their flow chart's more effective.
okay.
No, it should be Justin again.
Yeah.
They doubled up.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
negative
because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So negative attack.
Okay. So I'll go with my attack right
You just get to talk a lot now.
Yeah.
now. All right.
It's 3.
All right. So as mentioned in your constructive speech, one of your reasons for doing this is foreign policy purposes. As I said before, the Ebola hot zones have volunteers who are ready to provide care for their own. They prefer not to partner with the U.S. So I have here a quote. According to DoctorsWithoutBorders.org, the indigenous workers and helpers and medical staff that are already there make deeper bonds and connections than would an outsider. Other countries look at the U.S. as having ulterior motives or agendas and do not trust help from the United States. This proves outside assistance not only unnecessary, but not advised for the cooperation of locals and for the safety of everyone. So if you have a bunch of Americans running around trying to fix problems that they might know nothing about, or maybe they don't have the knowledge to actually help the people, the African governments and this group here, Doctors Without Borders, would just rather not even have assistance from the U.S. Also, you mentioned that to prevent the spread of the disease was one of your points that you brought up of why we should send troops. My refutation of that is that there is an already high fatality rate projected, and military presence will only increase said rate. And as you said, 15,000 total cases, and we have the total deaths numbered at 5,177. So that makes it roughly a third of the people that have died there. This has all occurred with the most efficient, streamlined care provided, as far as what was the best that they could do, as far as a poor African country. The death toll is sure to include Americans, which there's basically none right now, Americans that have died. But if we're putting them in harm's way, we're going to have deaths come to American citizens. Also, the lack of knowledge and experience could very well lead to unnecessary accidental deaths and diagnosis for American and indigenous people. So I feel like if we do send people over there without the correct knowledge and the experience to back it up, we're just going to cause more harm than good. So I mean, the spread of the disease would actually further itself based on our lack of experience. Also, one other thing, that leads to the foreign policy point is that I think that a definite distinction needs to be made by officials as to what type of mission our troops are being sacrificed for to accomplish. They basically said it was a humanitarian mission, but we're sending troops over there, which kind of raises the question of what we actually are doing over there. A lot of people say it's for personal gain, which could be, the pharmaceutical companies are going to profit from this. But technically they haven't really found a cure for it yet because the countries are so poor they feel like they have nothing to gain from developing a cure for the disease, which is why it still hasn't come around yet. So that would lead to less, that would lead to more spread of the disease. I mean, because it's just a parable to say that we're going to be over there doing this for them, but yeah, we really have no interest based on finances. Let's see. Another thing that came up, reason why we're doing this is a storm of social media has happened, and that's all from magazines and things like that, where they're doing the articles and making money off of that. So really, it's just a selfish reason to be over there. So, that's it.
All right, good job. And CX?
Any question?
So what exactly is the death rate as of right now?
From our research, it was 5,177.
Can you give that in percentage?
About a third.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 31%.
I have a question. You said that they do not trust the Americans that are helping. Do you think that's important if they need the help? Does it matter that they don't trust them?
Well, through our research, there was a case that indicated that 8 people that were from America actually were killed. It started out as stones being thrown from an angry village, and they feel like since we're over there, we're actually promoting the disease or spreading it or somehow infecting them besides natural causes. So these 8 people, 3 of them were journalists, were actually killed and buried based on just foreign people being over there.
For any of these,
Would you repeat your question again? No.
Yeah, I was saying it doesn't matter that they don't trust them if they need the help building infrastructures and such.
I would say that they might need the help, but it's more beneficial for us just to stay put so that we're not getting killed for no reason, basically.
Okay, and then also you said that the people that they killed were journalists. That sounds like there's more of a social media issue than the troops being there helping.
I would say that, they're both issues, but it was just the fact that these people were probably supposed to be guarded by troops and things such as that. So, if these people were under the impression that they were going to be protected and they got killed, what's next? The troops could be killed. The doctors, they could have a raid into a hospital stealing supplies and killing everybody. Where's it going to stop?
of this group of people, were any of them medical staff?
The ones that were killed.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yes. I don't have that information.
Okay.
All right. Next. Dan?
Yes. Okay. So here's the deal. The foreign policy issues that we're trying to get through here is that troops have the worst PR out of all of America. Granted, America's made a lot of mistakes in the past. No one can deny that. But the last time we did not act upon this global threat that's happening, because Ebola is a global threat. It was projected that 100,000 deaths could come the world over because of the Ebola virus. Right now, as it stands, we've reduced those chances down to 31%, you said, right? 31% of people are having deaths. Before, the death rate was actually 50%. So we've actually drastically reduced what it was before just by even sending 3,000 troops over, right? And here's the deal. People who are known for giving death, troops, right? Their job is to kill the enemy, are actually giving life and giving hope to those around them, as opposed to what they're projected to be, what the media makes them out to be, what other people's media makes them out to be, the bringers of death. They are no longer that by embarking upon this humanitarian mission. That's why they sent troops. Also, for some reason, God forbid that a riot does actually break out, they are troops and can defend themselves better than a group like Doctors Without Borders, which is actually Médecins Sans Frontières, which is actually French for Doctors Without Borders. That organization started out as a French organization. It was not started out as an American organization. Therefore, it would be seen more as an international community effort as opposed to America's effort. And by America sending its troops, America is saying, hello, we're a big country, we want to help you through this, right? There was a quote by Tolbert Noenswa, I know I said that terribly and I'm sorry, who said that the international community has failed Liberia. He's the head of Liberia's response effort. And he said that the international community has failed Liberia because they did not take action with this sooner. They did none of this sooner. And so I feel bad for them because we did not help them sooner. And this is why it's a problem. They survived before because entire populations would just die out. And that's how they contained it. They weren't actually curing the disease. The populations would just die, all on their own, no help. Right? So this is for a chance for us to actually help the survivability rate, not only for today, but for years to come. And so now we're building facilities to where people can get help, get treatment, and be healed, and get through this disease as opposed to just dying off like flies because of an enemy they don't know how to fight. You say we lack experience, but honestly, I don't think we do. Right? There's a couple factors we don't know about, that's for sure. But who better, we have some of the top scientists in the world in America. We have some of the best medical personnel in the world in America. And so to send some of these people to help fight the virus is more effective than sending some people, just some random people, right? Sending the local doctors who have had their chances and been trying to help, but they can't do it by themselves. They lack the personnel. In fact, there were 2 ETUs, Ebola treatment units, that were shut down because they did not have the adequate personnel to deal with the issue. In addition to that, last time we didn't do this, World War II happened.
Okay. CX?
All right, I have a question. Let's just say the death rate isn't because of medicine improvements and not American influence. Who's to say that it's actually American influence is why the death rate is going down?
Because by influencing the people that are going there, we're not only, we're sending more people with more medicine. The medicine hasn't necessarily improved, but it's still, nevertheless, we've actually been helping them. It's been improving through our research that we've got from being over there and people researching it while they're there.
For the last 6 months.
For the last 6 months.
Okay.
They've been working on it, but they haven't necessarily fully developed it.
We have no more questions.
I have one more though.
Okay.
So I mentioned in mine about the costs that were involved, and according to mine, I have 1.1 trillion just in Iraq alone was spent, which is 1/18 of the national debt. How do you feel about the cost that we're going to incur? It's 6.2 billion just right off the start.
What is 6.2 billion compared to millions of human lives?
Just
How much
looking
is a human soul
from
worth?
from a monetary perspective, I mean.
Looking from a monetary perspective, you think about this. If it comes over here and it infects people over here, you're having CEOs drop off the face of the earth. You're having regular minimum wage workers dying by the droves. You're having our international business partners being affected by this. And so everyone is affected by this virus. This is not just this is not a West Africa problem only. This can spread the world over. and just ravage the world as we know it. Because you mentioned that little island, that safe little haven where you can just enjoy the sun. That won't exist if this continues to spread. Because you will have that suit everywhere you go if this spreads. I promise you that.
All right.
I thought it was affirmative defense.
Is that what he's doing?
No, he's negative defense.
Oh.
Alright, sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
78, negative question. Yeah, it says affirmative defense on 9,
Okay.
negative defense on 10.
So we're at Jeff, right?
Yeah.
So which one are you?
Negative defense.
Affirmative.
Affirmative defense.
We're going to begin on a couple of your points, the points that you made. You said that a majority of Americans do not agree with our involvement in reducing the spread of this virus, when actually I researched that there were 64% of Americans asked about this issue actually agree and promote and want us to send our troops and medical staff out there to help them, because they realize that that country doesn't have the necessary resources and some of the technologies that we have to take care of this virus alone. Also said that sending our troops will give us a higher death rate, which sits at 33%. Well, because their chance of getting infected and dying themselves, the troops that we're sending, again, are medical staffs themselves. The ones who aren't medical staffs are there for construction and maintenance for all the facilities and all the equipment that we have. They will also be trained to watch out for all the signs and all the symptoms of Ebola, so they can properly protect themselves from being infected themselves and increasing that death rate. And of this rate that we do have, the patients that all the facilities that we had in total, there's about a 75% survival rate from everyone who comes into all these facilities in these different camps in Africa. You also said that no Americans have died, when actually we've had at least 3 cases of mortalities from this virus in the United States that we know, that to record. And about the hostiles in the villages attacking Americans that have gone to help this issue, you said that they were mostly journalists, and you couldn't tell us whether or not they were medical staff, which I understand is hard to come about, but I don't think these are the patients or the family of these patients attacking the medical staff or the Americans. Our involvement is promoted by these people who are essentially healed and taken care of through these facilities. They actually are taking our help. What we're doing can do nothing but help America, help the world, because it helps our international image. As he said before, it makes us look like the big brother. We're looking down and we're helping those who can't help themselves. Because if we turn a blind eye to what doesn't affect us now, it could affect us in the long run. It can affect the entire world and become a potential pandemic. Because like he said, like you previously brought up, the island, that island is safe until someone affected makes a trip to that island. And then we all have this issue. And instead of being proactive, we're being reactive. And we're dealing with issues like Africa is dealing with right now. So that's what America was built on. It was built on being proactive and productive. So we're trying to take that step forward and be proactive by sending our troops out there to take care of this disease while it's at the scale that it's at right now, before it becomes a global issue for everyone to deal with. before we have all of our companies and businesses drop, so that our debts don't grow larger from the people running these companies dying or having issues within their families that essentially take out the global economy. And that's it.
Alright, good job. And 6, number 3, right?
There is no seat.
Oh, we're done now.
Yeah.
Alright.
Am I going in?
Yep.
He's gonna do the negative defense now, and then you're gonna do y'all summary after
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yep.
I'm going
It's a
in.
really weird format.
Alright.
Well, so can I say how this question? Okay, no data.
Just the,
I would like to say there's been a productive set of arguments here, and then my brilliant opponent and my brilliant colleague here have stated a lot. But what I would like to clarify would be, first of all, my opponents keep stating the fact that there'll be a better change in the global economy with America aids and stuff. And then she asked the question, if wouldn't it be better would it be better, or how do you phrase that your question? Would it be better if you don't want help, but we still try to
Does
help?
it matter if they trust you if you need the help?
Yeah, but now I'll be saying, forcing help, is it really helping? Because there's an African saying in some certain places, you can take the donkey to the river, but you can't force it to drink water. Yeah? And then I do believe that, as my other colleague said earlier on, he stated that some families were killed because people don't really trust them. American troops, as they said, yeah, are known to bring death to a lot of countries and a lot of places. This has brought about fear and tension to the civilians of these countries. So I do believe, as a matter of fact, taking steps into these places might bring about a positive result, but at the same time too, also overlooking the other results it can also bring combat crisis there. People might decide to react, and if the US troops there are originally just meant to fight against the disease itself, this could also affect them negatively, because now they have to fight for their own lives, and they also have to try to do the same complete mission they are there right now for. So I do believe what my colleague was also trying to say earlier on was that it would be much better if you have people from that environment, from with those familiar places, take care of those places. Before the US troops went there, they already had people that had already contained these places. Like in Nigeria, for example, there were about 20 hospital results cases, and then it has been contained. In about Senegal, which is actually quite close to Liberia, the number of people that have been affected has been really low, and then it's also being contained. And as a matter of fact, you also see that there are some other African countries within these other countries too, within these Ebola-struck countries, that have not had any results of Ebola. And then what I was simply trying to say is that if the US really wants to help these African countries that do have Ebola, instead of them sending troops there, they can also if they really want to help, and also this foreign policy that you all are talking about, you can also ask from the countries to send some of their doctors, some of their medical specialists, and you could train them beyond the level of training they do have, and you could send them back, because this will now create familiar faces for the people of the nation to see, oh, these are my people, and to bring a level of trust there. And then this also creates a better image for the US for future references, saying, oh, they did help us in certain areas. But sending troops right here will just bring about a bad result, or here in America it said bad atmosphere. Yeah, this will bring about a bad atmosphere for the people around. So I believe that's what he was trying to say. He said something about the island, which I want to clarify. He said, will it be better? It's much better for people on an island than for someone in a suit to be in a war zone. Like, when I say war zone, not war as in combat crisis, but like in the Ebola outbreak itself. And then I do believe that too, because if you want to think about it, which is much better, for you to be in something, in an accident, in an incident that's quite terrible, or to be outside this incident that's quite terrible. America already has some people that have been already affected by it, and then if for any reason America is afraid that it might affect them, they can also study on the Ebola patients they already have here, and they can use that to create a cure, or at least a way to also protect themselves from it within the meantime, while these other nurses or while these other doctors there are working well on it. And then, sorry if you don't mind, I wanted to state something else here. And yeah, yeah, basically I've actually said almost everything I need to say. And then, thank you very much.
And then Berkeley?
Yes. To summarize what we've all been talking about, there's basically only good things that can come out of Americans going to help out with Ebola in Africa. Even if they don't want us to be there, we're going to be there and we're going to be able to help them. They have their own medical troops, or excuse me, their own medical workers, like you said, but they're not going to have the same kind of funds that we have, and that we're going to be able to build more infrastructures for them, and it's just going to help overall, and we'll be able to stop things faster. Before, if you only had your workers and the African workers, then it's not going to be as effective because they're not going to have the funds and everything that we could bring to it. You said we have the $18 billion in debt already, but it's if Ebola comes back to America and spreads around the world, it's just going to put everybody else in more debt trying to figure out how to stop it once it comes back to America and all the other places. And Americans, you guys said that Americans prefer not to work with, or Africans prefer not to work with Americans, but we've seen videos of, for one example, the town of Bong County. There was a nurse and she was basically just saying how, it was hard for her when people got cured because they'd made such a great relationship. And, once they left, it was almost sad because they missed each other and stuff. But, they always had, what she talked about was how they had a great relationship with the patients and everybody, and, those were American workers. So, and then the Americans also, they work with personnel that have already been in Ebola crises, and they train them, and so they're not just out there working on their own. They're going to be working with people that have already been in the situation before. Another thing that was brought up was social media, and social media has only helped raise awareness about it. I know there's been a lot of, text Ebola to this number and donate $10. So that'll also help raise money and funds so that it's not America being put in more debt. But it'll also help with our image around the world. If we go in and help with Ebola, then other countries are going to see that, we're willing to help. We're willing to give you, our funds, and we're willing to go in and help you with whatever problem you need. And honestly, if America doesn't go in and help and the problem is spread around the world, then who's going to go in and help if it's not America? We're one of the leading countries in the world, and we need to be there showing our support and giving our help. So, yeah. That's all.
Okay.
So how many minutes do I have?
Where are we at?
4.
Yeah,
Everybody gets 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody gets 4. Cross-examination gets 2.
You need anything else?
Yeah.
Just their points they brought up and they're constructive. So.
But since we're just doing summary, wait, has my time started?
No.
Okay, since we're just doing summary, we're just summarizing majorly our points here.
Basically.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to start with since I'm summarizing, I'd like to start with the points of the humanitarian medical organizations are better trained than US troops to deal with the type of crisis. Well, I won't start with that. I'll just give a general overview of it. Well, I've had first-hand expert testimonies from over this period of time when I was preparing for the debate with some other people from these various countries, and then there really isn't much of an acceptance to it. So this image that America is trying to provide, or this image America is trying to create, might not really be beneficial to them because it's going to be seen as a move against them if really you're trying to create a better image. But people around the world or people from these certain countries do not want this help. Now you're going to be forcing it. And since these people too are also not totally in charge of what goes in and what goes out of the country, because some certain countries too in West Africa are still ruled by some higher forms of power that the civilians within them can't just control themselves. It's going to bring about a form of hatred. It's going to bring, some people are going to be biased about their judgments towards America. And then this good image one is trying to create will only get worse for a lot of people. And then also speaking, within this West African region, you also have a lot of people that I would say hate the Western civilization. In one of the West African countries like Nigeria, there's an organization called Boko Haram. I believe a few might have heard of it. Boko Haram means against Western civilization, because they believe Western civilization is evil, and anything that has to do with any Western civilization, especially when it comes to American countries or American people coming within this environment, they bring about these bombs, the war begins, a lot of death begins, and then you trying to also protect the people, you also bring about more loss of life within these countries. You're saying that you can protect the world, you can stop it, but there are also these West African countries that have been able to stop it before the American troops were even sent, and also West African countries too that do not have the US troops there that have been able to contain it. But in some ways might be brutal, they might be brutally stopping it, and some others might actually do it in a well proper way. But at the same time too, if these countries within this region have the ability to contain and to also help aid their own people, don't you think it would be much better, wiser, and much of a cheaper choice than for you to get someone from a whole different continent and a whole different country, shipping or flying over the things they need over to this other continent to protect or to help? You said build, sorry, I wrote this down, sorry. You said build infrastructures and facilities, but well, these African countries are not as backward as a lot of people think they are, because they can also build their own facilities themselves too. I saw like pictures of the US troops building some of these things. When I was a kid, like we go through this military training too, and then some of these things we build it just for ourselves. You are trained to do some certain things too. And my own country, Nigeria, is quite closer to this, and we're not in as much debt as the United States is in right now. We also have a lot of money that we can also use to also aid these people if they do need help. So I believe America going to this is not really going to aid, but instead will bring about a greater depth in hatred or in loss of appreciation or in just people's bad atmosphere towards this situation. It's not the wisest decision for the US to actually jump into this right now, because they think it's easy for them to actually create a better foreign policy or a better image, because you're also just seeing from one perspective. If you decide to actually see it from a more realistic perspective, there's also a huge possibility that the US is also putting their feet in a place that is highly unwanted, and this will also cause about a bad return. You also have jihadists that also take the advantage to easily attack the US troops that will come there. Now, that place that you're trying to aid from Ebola will become a war zone, and then believe me, a lot of people don't want that for their families right now. A lot of people in Liberia are really not rich enough, but if they now have to come with a cause to fight against military and all these bombs and war, it will bring about a greater depth for them, and then the whole purpose of going to Africa to aid will become useless. Thank you very much.
All right. And summing it up for the affirmative.
That was.
Oh, no, yeah?
Yeah, we're done.
Wow, I have one. Okay, I see. I got it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good job, guys.
Thank you.
Good.